next year they can comp us some hotel rooms.
You think?
I've gone ahead and started.
Maybe we could talk about.
Okay.
You guys start the show.
One other thing we could talk about is how we do the podcast. You know, that kind of thing.
Well, we could do that.
We'd like potpourri of stuff.
Yeah. What do you want to wait any longer, or do you want to just go ahead and start talking?
Yeah, the intro music started.
Let's see.
Popular ingredients.
Everybody, I wrote this song. Pretty soon you will sing along. All right. Well, okay. You ready now?
I'm ready.
Recording is on.
Start.
Oh, that has started. There you go. All right. Well, welcome, meager audience, to our live session recording the CoCo Crew Podcast. We intend to take this segment, incorporate it in the next episode. So some amount of we are recording before a live studio audience.
That's right.
No laugh track.
That's right.
Not live, please.
Yeah. And so the audience easy for me to say, audience participation is encouraged. Let's see. So, did anybody see the posting from Glenside President Tony Pedrezza about yesterday's attendance numbers?
Yes.
What was it?
It's 116 yesterday.
That's awesome.
Very impressive.
Wow.
Right?
Fantastic. Yeah.
That's it's got to be a record for this decade.
I think so.
I think you predicted 125, right?
Yeah,
That's pretty
so-
close.
Something like that.
That's pretty good.
What's the over/under on that?
Yeah, well, so there's a good chance there'll be a few newbins that come today that weren't there yesterday. So count those as separate. We'll probably have a few more. We might still hit 125. So that's cool. Certainly the best attended fest that I remember going to. You know, it's very exciting. I want to thank the CoCo Talk show for bringing all their regular panel, which pushed us from the 80 to 116. Very, very.
Keep it up.
All you're looking for is the quantity, not the
Exactly. Exactly. Anyway, so what do you want to talk about? Well, so I mean, with CoCoFEST.
Docker, I'd like to talk about Docker.
Oh, yeah.
Here, let me explain the third line of my Docker manifest. So it's CoCoFEST. We got booths, we've got auction, we've got just all the people around. What's our favorite part? Huh? What do you think? I think my favorite part is always the people.
Yes.
Talking to people.
The mingling.
I love getting to be, give John Strong a hug. He's a good hugger. It's just good to see people and catch up a little bit on what projects or things are happening in people's lives. We've all gotten a little older over time. We've become a little more of a friendly group since not everybody's crazy enough to come. So there's always some of that. I try to push back on that a little bit because we got a little too much of that at one point, where it's a little too much of a family reunion and not enough about the CoCo. I think this is definitely an event that's been about the CoCo. Go look out at the show floor. There's new products. There's projects. It's good stuff going on.
I like the fact that there's a number of vendors now. We had to expand out of the main room into a second room.
Yeah, that is amazing. That, like I said, we've got two reasonably full rooms of vendors, not just a one room for hanging out and listening to the talks and having the auction.
That's right.
We had.
And going on that, yesterday the room was feeling like the old CoCoFEST we had.
Yeah.
It was just full. You could barely get moved through the main room there.
Yeah.
And so that's exciting to see, especially from the vendor viewpoint and such, getting people here and, anytime as a vendor, you're not going to sell to everybody in the show, and if you did, you probably sold to them last year the item you have this year. But getting the people here and new people, and
That's the main.
at least one new people looking to get back in the CoCo, say, hey, we're doing this, I'm looking to buy a CoCo today, and things like that. So it's exciting.
There were actually some CoCos for sale in the auction. Yay! That was good.
They sold it out.
There'd been a few years where
They
there
did.
weren't too many of those. So that was good.
Yeah.
The new products, Jim Brain's got some interesting new products. You got our sound demo is out, and Mark Marlette's got his memory board at rock bottom sale prices selling out.
Yeah.
Richard Lorbieski also has a memory board. I think he's sold out.
I showed a couple new cases.
New cases from John Strong. Rest in peace on the printer. I'm sorry, but hopefully that'll get replaced. So yeah, good stuff. I think it's been a good fest so far. Anybody disagree? Anybody not having a good time? So I don't know. So I'm going to pass the microphone this way here, and why don't we hear from Neil? What does he got to say?
Well, I think the most exciting thing is the number of people.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this attendance, and I've been coming since 2010. This is impressive.
That's great.
Very good. Yeah. What do you think,
Yes.
Mike?
Yeah, I agree. It's having the people, just a lot of energy and a lot of buzz. A lot of great conversations. It's great to see new faces and, actually sit down and talk to some people and a lot more discussions about CoCo things, and it's great to see like Jamie's presentation
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just people talking about
All these new projects.
doing software development
Yeah.
and it's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely good to see some activity. People doing new projects, wanting to talk about them, wanting to share. People seeking collaboration. I think that's probably the clearest
Yeah,
message I got
that's
from
right.
Jamie is he's seeking collaboration.
Right.
He's showing you how easy it is. I mean, so we've got this DynaSprite software project. It's been out there for years now.
Yeah.
A little bit left fallow. Looks like it's actually pretty easy to use, and we've got a good demo of it. So maybe that's inspiring to somebody to help. And it looks like Jamie wants to work on it. He seems like a nice guy. So
Yeah.
maybe you could hook up and have some fun there.
Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot of people say, I'm going to try this, for next year, and that's great to hear, to get a project in your mind, try something, stick your toes in the water.
Yeah.
Well, how about you, Boisy? What are your thoughts?
I like the fact that people are getting together and collaborating. I think we need to have more software projects in the community. There's a lot of hardware out there. We have a lot of talent in the software, and it would be nice to see people coming together as loosely a couple teams and federation of people from different parts of the country that have the same interest and would use these tools and make some great software. So I can see that formulating here at the fest.
And like I said, there's a lot of good tools out there for people to work in teams that are not physically close, but you can still have a pretty good interaction. We do it, we do our podcast using a tool called Blue Jeans. It's similar to Google Hangouts.
Right.
The CoCo Talkers have their tool Discord, which is originally for like a gamer chat, right? That's what it's designed for, but they're not only doing text chat, they're doing voice chat and constantly on there, and seem to make it good use of that for keeping in contact on their tools. So
Sometimes those voice chats go until 3 in the morning.
that's right.
It's like a CoCoFEST every night.
You'd almost think we don't have real lives.
Actually, Curtis does have a real life. He has to type everything in because he doesn't want to wake up his significant other.
Oh, there you go. A real wife. So anyway, so what else do you want to talk about here today? Anybody have any questions or general questions for our podcast or?
When's it
about
going to video?
Never.
Never.
Not likely.
It'll be
Not
so
likely.
bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Witness protection.
Can you recommend good backlighting?
It's you get the right light. It keeps your back warm. You feel nice. Go ahead.
I've got, just a comment. Like I had a color computer back in my high school in the early 80s, like everybody else here. And over the last 20 years, I've made attempts to try to kind of get back into it and write like basic 09 programs, and I want to do it with an emulator. I've got all the hardware, but I just didn't want to have it all set up in my house, taking up space. But it's kind of challenging, and then it's like there's dozens of websites. So I was always thinking like it'd make it easier to kind of get back into the swing of things. If like what's the one main website you should go to. It has like the table of contents.
There isn't
There's no such thing.
Well, you're trying to make life too easy for yourself.
Yeah,
Right,
well,
I
so-
know.
so-
You know, I've got 3 kids and all that. It's like I want to like just kind of get in and
Yeah.
get going, and it's
Un-
overwhelming, you know. So
There's this little
Unfortunately-
search engine called Google.
Yeah, exactly. So Google is your friend. Unfortunately, I mean, there's not a real good specific consolidation. You know, we're like herding cats or whatever. Everybody wants to do their own thing. So Steve Strobridge has I'mACoconut.com.
IMA, coconut.
And so he's trying to collect a lot of stuff there. Of course, it's the easy to one-stop shop to see the 49 different places to go. But, still,
It's one site to the internet.
that's right. It's almost like one of those, back in like 94, 95, you could buy that book that's like your internet yellow pages. So just a book full of URLs. So we're going to produce one of those next year for CoCoFEST.
Just for Coco.
Be in
And
the
you
program.
only get it
in the
if
back
you
of the
come to
program.
Coco.
Exactly.
The one that I like is CoCopedia.
Yeah, that's
You know,
Alan Upton's
yeah.
sign, I guess, right?
I'm gonna, looking around as a newcomer, that one made the most sense to me because it has the right framework for individuals to be able to, collaborate on it, and it looks uniform and,
Right.
and it's editable by anybody who gets permissions.
So it's a wiki, right? Is that
Yeah.
correct?
But,
Um,
and Alan makes you run a bit of a Turing test on the CoCo before he lets give you permission.
Well, that's good. That's probably a good idea. So yeah, I think there's probably a couple other examples of that where we have someone started a project and in the hopes of gathering some collaboration. I think that's obviously if you start a wiki, you're looking for some collaboration. CoCopedia has been there a long time. I think probably most of the editing probably is by Alan. So I don't think he's gotten a ton of cooperation there. I'm sure he's welcomed any cooperation he can get.
That's where I'm putting my efforts.
And so it's kind of like, I come out of the open source world, and then, so one thing we always try to emphasize is, okay, not everyone's a coder. Not everyone's even a tester, right? You kind of need people that can write documentation, people that will use the product and report a bug, but not strictly speaking as in a test capacity, but hey, I was doing this thing and the light flickered and the lightning hit the house or whatever. So you need users, you need people that do things. Communication, I guess, is the biggest thing. To work with the community and contribute in whatever way is comfortable to you. And so if you know something or know some facts that can be filled in on CoCopedia, well, I think that's a good thing. Go ahead and put them in there. Or at least if you know, I don't know, maybe you live next to Steve Bjork and you have the skinny on how the development of Clowns and Balloons, and you know the inside story. Well, write it down. We want to know, right? We're not all going to live forever, and some of us will live longer than others. At least the youngers of us, when we're getting too old to do anything but read about the good old days, at least we'll have something to read then, right? But
Now, as everybody gets older in this community, that's all they're going to do is talk. I remember in the good old days it was like this.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we're a little bad about that anyway.
Get off my lawn.
Exactly. Exactly. I remember this item. I'm going to sell it to you, but first I'm going to tell you all about the history, my personal history with this item. Anyway.
But, you see that in other groups too, your classic cars and stuff.
Oh, sure.
And sometimes that story is boring, other times it's very interesting.
Oh, yeah.
So you just got to endure it to find out which.
Depends who's talking.
Yeah, if you start talking about it and the person goes to sleep, you gotta move on.
Probably so.
I've learned to just walk away.
Grant, why don't you?
Yeah, so where do we go from here? I mean, how do we keep the momentum going and make sure that we continue to grow and, maybe move to another location? And, Tandy Assume is coming up here pretty soon. Is that going to grow as well, like CoCoFEST? So basically, how do we keep the momentum going? How do we get more people in?
Well, first we have Tandy Assembly. We have a new venue picked out there.
Yeah.
Mike could tell us a little bit about it, maybe?
Yeah, for this year it's going to be in Springfield, Ohio. So it's a little closer to, major airports. It's closest to Dayton, Ohio, about 30 minutes from there. We have it's a more modern venue. It's a larger venue.
Better power?
Better power. That's right, because we had power issues, and we were right on the edge at our first location. So those problems are hopefully solved. Yeah, we think it's going to be really a great event, and we're hoping that's going to grow. As far as how do we keep the momentum going, it's every individual's job to keep the momentum going, and you do that by, getting involved wherever you can. We've got so many new outlets for that, and that is basically what it comes down to. Is it's everybody acting individually that keeps the momentum building.
Yeah, when you do a project, or even if you just decide to spend an evening playing Winnie the Pooh in the 100-acre woods or something, you can post about it, say, this was great, I had fun. It's just communication. I find one thing over the years, it's been, I think a lot of people are a little bit, maybe ashamed's not quite the right word, but it's like they're a little bit, not eager to tell everybody what goofy thing they did with the color computer. And that's something I've tried to emphasize. It's like, well, I enjoy it, you enjoy it, we have fun. Why not talk about it? The guy on the street might enjoy the same stuff, but he just may not quite have the guts to talk about it,
I think we're doing, sorry. I think we're doing a lot of this stuff. We're cooperating, supporting other projects. In fact, most of my funds that I get for selling the cases, which the cases actually support other projects.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so we're cooperating with each other, It's not like, I have this sound card, you shouldn't make a sound card type thing.
Yeah.
And, Alan's stuff is unique. It's not so much his sound there, is he's writing software that's going to be usable with the other sound chips.
Yeah.
With everybody else is his goal. And so this cooperation that we have in the community now, even though we're quote unquote competitors, we're more friends than we are competitors.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to help grow this community, that spirit of cooperation and friendliness.
Right. Well, you can send us, feedback. Either you can write us something, you could record something, hear your voice on our show. You could apply for a license to be on the CoCo Talk show, and
we have a very stringent screening process.
In 6 months, maybe you'll make it on the show.
It's a very complicated, well-done thing. We had that one guy that's toking a joint on the CoCo After Talk one.
Good Lord, really?
Go ahead, Steve.
On the theme of growing the community, Boisy, I know you didn't, having reread the book just recently, you declined to try to hazard a guess at the total number of CoCos produced, but it was well in excess of 1 million. But was there a number that you kind of internally settled on?
Maybe I'd say, and I don't know, Steve, you might be able to know more about this than I do, or venture to second guess my guess. I would say between 1 and 2 million, I guess.
So there's at least that many people out there that had some experience with a CoCo.
Yeah.
And maybe it's multiplied by now, with the pass-through. But the first exposure I had to the old computers still had a life was the vintage computer festivals. And they are making a major push to expand them into areas where they have it. They did an outreach into Seattle, which was...
You're talking about the ones they do up on the East Coast, Seattle, the one they're having this weekend in Atlanta.
There's about 8 of them now.
And also on California, too, they have one, right?
There's 3 of them on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my suggestion is that members of the CoCo community, make a effort to attend the VCF and maybe put out a booth to say the CoCo's,
we have.
So
if they would quit doing it on the same weekend as CoCoFEST.
Well, hers is the scheduling sometimes hurts. I've exhibited at VCF East a couple of times.
Yeah.
I've been to VCF Southeast a couple of times. And unfortunately, the times I've been there, I've been the only CoCo guy there. There's bound to be some other CoCo folks out there. Put together a booth. You can get these cardboard triptychs that the kids use for their science fair projects, and slap a couple of pictures or something up on there. And
That's exactly what I'm going to do for the next year's Seattle event. And, you know, that it got me inspired to get back into this. You know, that exposed me to this.
Yeah.
Besides these shows that you're talking about, there's other new ones cropping up that have their own roots. In Los Angeles, we've got a show that's being held at the LA County Fairgrounds, which has large convention facilities, and they are anticipating close to 4,000 people showing up for that.
Wow.
Meet CoCo missionaries.
Yeah, exactly.
That's half the battle is that people don't realize there is an active community, and they're kind of shocked and excited
exactly
when they stumble into it. So the more we get the word out, the more we show up at these events. I mean, it's all great stuff. Yeah.
The other thing is I've gone through and I've done some studies. Retro usually takes about 30 years since the event that it's being retro to. Everybody used to think it'd be 20 years. It really is 30. And people are remembering fond days of playing with their computer. It was simple, it was fun, and like that. But the other thing too is 30 years later, you now have more disposable income for recreational, and that's what you see the machine as, is recreational.
Absolutely.
And if I can follow up here, what you're talking about is happening at the Midwest. Okay, Vinny's here. These guys just have booths. I had a booth last year. I actually gave a talk. Had a guy who did not have a CoCo, who actually brought a product from me and looking to get a CoCo. Because after talking to me, I didn't know they were doing that. Oh, you could do that with a CoCo? You had MIDI on a CoCo, you had this. And so, yes, it does work. And I don't see him here, but, spent a lot of time at my booth. And while I had to change my talk on game programming to a very broad overview, which what I actually did yesterday here for the group, it was well received. There wasn't a lot of people there. Again, they're not expecting a CoCo person to show up there and give the talk so much, but I think I was well received. I had some people that was very interested at my booth, and I was really minimally set up to go there because I didn't know I was going to go till, shortly before, and some other issues that kept me from really doing all out for my booth. But I did have very good response for what I did for the booth. And I've seen a lot of activity around the TRS-80 booth, especially the guy who creating the plug-in conversion, the CoCo that does the VGA out just from the cartridge.
Peter Bartlett, yeah.
And so it definitely does work because we were generating talk. People were looking. There's a lot that you're competing against, so you have to realize that. But I think we're getting noticed.
Yeah. Well, so I'm sure we all remember back in the day that it was like, what kind of computer do you have? Oh, well, I've got a Commodore 64. It's the greatest ever. It's like, yours just got the trash 80 or what. You well remember that kind of stuff. And there'll still be a little bit of mocking fun or whatever. But we're all adults now, and you go to these kind of events, and we have more similarities than differences.
Yeah.
And most people have at least, I find, especially if you're serious enough to go to an event, most people have an interest that goes beyond just their own home base, so to speak. And so you'll be welcome at the events, even if it's not strictly a TRS-80 event or whatever.
Coming over here.
Well, one of the things I like about CoCoFEST and the community in general is we've expanded the concept of what is a CoCo. So it just like somebody mentioned about the classic cars. There are people who want to rebuild the classic car using all original pieces, and there are certainly some CoCo 2s and CoCo 3s and even programming for a 4K CoCo 1 where people are embracing being able to do stuff with the old original hardware, but being able to do the FPGAs and the new sound card expansions and memory expansions and emulators and expanding the idea of what a CoCo is. I I think embracing all of that and letting each person partake in whichever aspects of that they're most interested in.
So I think you know what you're saying is there's room for the full stock trailer queen, and there's also room for the alcohol burning hot rod dragster.
Sure. Yeah. Exactly.
So why not, right?
Right. It's
I
about
think that makes
making
sense.
the pie bigger. Yeah.
Whatever scratches your itch.
Yeah.
So. Well, what else?
I think to your question though, or to whoever's question was how do we keep this going, I think if we just keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
What I see is this is a kinetic energy snowball where inspiration is inspiring and we're just becoming this sustainable resource where it's just, we're becoming this perpetual motion machine where you guys 3 years ago kicked off what is now the new CoCoFEST, which I never heard of before. And you inspired a lot of people, and these people are now inspiring more people, and it's contagious. And so I think if we just continue this contagious energy and this positive energy, that it just becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy that we've seen it's gotten better every year, right?
Yeah.
And Tandy Assembly, your first event, was as successful as CoCoFEST has been in the past couple of years. And I think the internet is helping too. So between Facebook and your podcast and our podcast and social media and YouTube, we've got this big online megaphone for the community.
Yeah, it's just keeping the conversation going.
You know,
But
I think that helps.
You're a bit of a victim of your success because you are pulling in new people, but you also want to stay at the same level you've been at for 30 years, you know, of your knowledge base, et cetera. But you have to, you know, kind of slow down and put some training wheels on your talk to embrace the newcomers like me, because it's trying to drink from a fire hose. There's 30 years of stuff out there.
Well, so yeah, there's that to consider. We need somebody that like for our podcast, it might be helpful to have somebody who was interested in focusing on some of that sort of thing. On the CoCo Talk, you got Grant with his newbie question of the week or whatever. He's trying to fill sort of that gap, I think. You know, it's worth considering, right? You bring people in, and you probably don't bring that many in, but truly new people. Well, maybe a few, but you know, there's still a lot of things they do that you never knew or you forgot so it's still new to you. So that's sort of I don't think we do much to address that other than just news.
I think I'm the poster child for what you're talking about, because like I come back to it after 10 years. Am I supposed to use VCC, the deck report, MAS?
Well,
I don't know. Like, where can I go to a website that just kind of talks about the differences between them and what people have experienced? So,
those have all been pulled down off of Facebook due to complaints.
No, I'm not complaining at all. I'm just, you know, it's just like who's the mentor? You know what I mean? Like, you know, like where you can just. And I know it's Facebook now, right? I can just post a question like.
Well, you know, that's those are
an analogy here. You're trying to find out where the best restaurant is. Everybody has different opinions. That's why there's hundreds and hundreds of restaurant viewers trying to figure out what is the best restaurant.
Yeah.
Everybody has. Trust me, my opinion about what's the best is going to be quite a bit different.
We need a CoCo Yelp.
Yeah.
Oh, please, God, no.
To add this to the things here, you know, some things are being done for the newbies, okay? You know, I have a project that I'm hoping to do, and it's a little more for the technical newbies, okay? But Steve's done his basic series, and he's been going through the book. Alan Huffman's been optimizing basic, and while he's doing that, let me be higher technical on that. He's bringing back, you know, hey, you do this to improve. You know, so there is something that's being addressed toward what you're talking about, but maybe not enough. And so it's a very good thing to bring up.
And you know, I think I got a challenge for you. So you're the newbie, you're trying to figure it out. Once you figure out something, share it.
Right, and that is
on
the
CoCopedia.
website that has that information.
So I'd just like to point out, though, that having people who are new-ish to the community, maybe not truly new, but new in the near term, it's nice to have a different perspective on that. So, like in the back of the room, we got you know, Mr. Bruce Moore with his official Canadian first initial D. And so he's a little bit new to the community as it stands today, but he brought out a game release in the past year where the basis for his game release was he published a book.
Right.
And so you bought the book, and it's a hint book essentially, or maybe a little more than that, but it's like imagine a hint book if you don't know what it is. Let's do it that way. But it has a download link in the game, or for the game in the book. That's kind of a totally different way to release a game, at least for the CoCo. I don't know if I've seen that anywhere. Similarly, we've got Paul Thayer with his release on the SD card. So we've got some newbie folk that are coming in and actually bringing in some pretty healthy ideas for different ways to release things. And so that's kind of cool just by itself.
And you know, and that's a perfect opportunity. I mean, you could do something as simple as starting a blog about what you've run into and what you've learned along the way, and you know.
And you can do that at Vintage is the New Old. I'm sure Paula will be happy to sponsor your blog, and you know, whatever.
But that's really a great way to build a community. Is when you see a need, try to get involved and fill it, because there's just it's too much for one person to do. It's too much for, you know, the more the merrier. You know, we get that all the time. Hey, you should have this show in Dallas, and it's like, and you know, my response is, you're right, we should get on it, because it's a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of effort to you know, put these things together. So it's just beyond what you know, a single person can do. So.
So Bruce, were you trying to sneak in here?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm doing my small part to trying to extend the CoCo community. In that I caught my son early enough that he found this old vintage computer interesting, got him playing on the computer games and all that, and they're his, you know, people his age, they find these things on the internet, learn how to code using Minecraft and all that. That's not real coding. No. So I'm teaching him how to code using the CoCo, kind of like I learned. And so he's actually writing code, and his friends, they don't, you know, they think they're coding, but they're not. They're dragging and dropping, right?
Yeah. Although my kid's really good with redstone, just for the...
Okay.
Anyway, what other topics?
You were hinting at, you know, it's a little bit embarrassing to, you know, admit that you're using and you know, still using this obsolete computer. But I think the CoCo has one unique aspect about it, as opposed to the C64s and the Apple IIs of the world, is that it's still being extended. I mean, one of the reasons that I decided to plunge back in, there's about half a dozen, but one of them was the existence of the Nitrous 9 project. You know, I mean, here's an OS that's actually being developed to run on these older computers, and it's, you know, and it has reasonable specs. It's multi-user, it's multitasking. You know, it's just that kind of stuff. And then the presentation this morning about using the modern tools. My gosh,
pretty cool.
What other platform of the era can say that, except maybe the Amiga?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you can find it. Ask Jim Breen. I'm sure he'll tell you what's hot in the Commodore world. And I know there's Apple II folks that'll have some things to say there. But yeah, no, still, we are in the running there at least. Against any of that. It's kind of amazing that this little underdog platform from the past still has, you know, can still gather this many people, even the people just in the room here.
Yeah, 115 people.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's my answer to, you know, not being embarrassed to admit that because the CoCo is really, truly understandable. You can see the chips, you know what they do. I mean, you can understand it down to the electrical level. It's repairable. You know, it's extendable. It's, you know, so I don't apologize for, you know, it might take some explanation, but, you know, it's no, put it this way, it's no more embarrassing than admitting I'm an amateur radio operator. So.
That's probably really no different than trying to learn, like, you know, hey, I want to get a Raspberry Pi and hook it up, make a light blink. I mean, you can make a light blink CoCo too, right? So
there's definitely some similarities.
So why not use a CoCo instead of a Raspberry Pi? That's the way I look at it.
No,
Whenever I'm describing it to friends, I use the the classic car analogy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I do too.
There are plenty of people who are into that. That's their thing. And
Yep.
Well,
this
way
is
to
our
look at
thing.
it- Another way to look at it is the badge of honor of being a nerd, because now, these days, people say they're a nerd because they know how to run an app on their phone.
Yeah.
I'm such a geek. Look what I can do. I'm a geek.
Yeah,
It's like, you have no idea what a geek is.
Right.
Geeks have no idea what a geek is.
Yeah. So my analogy is, my fallback analogy is the model railroad. It's equally goofy to run your own model railroad. But people seem to grasp that for some reason. You know, they all know their uncle had that one down in the basement, and it was kind of cool. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's helpful, but
That's just what you do for fun. You enjoy it. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen where people actually get together with the big model railroad layouts, and you're the conductor, and you're the whatever the term is for the guy that sits in the
Yard
office
master.
and schedules and stuff. Yeah, and they actually run like a day's worth of operations on their model railroads. So we're at least no worse than that.
Another thing that you guys just don't even notice, that because you're so steeped in it, is that I am really proud to be in the company of you guys, because, you know, okay, we have the CoCo in common, but the expertise represented in this room is astonishing. I would not rub elbows with somebody else like you, John, who's deep into Red Hat, you know. And
But I mean, we've got Ron Delvaux too. I mean, you know.
I'm nobody. I'm a user. I don't even code.
Oh, but we've seen the art, man. I mean, that's good stuff.
And this is kind of funny here, because, you know, I've just been around long enough. You know, recently I'm a celebrity because I've been here.
Yeah.
You know, and then Steve and Rick Adams show up, and like, oh, these guys, he's so good. And I know I'm embarrassing him now a little bit. That's not the intention. But you know, he's a very good programmer who did his job very well. And I learned so much from his lectures and stuff he did at Rainbow Fest, you know. And, you know, it just gave me, you know, very starting point. You know, he didn't have enough time to really teach you too much. But he gave you a lot of clues. And so, you know, a lot of things that, you know, and I followed those clues. And, you know, it's greatly appreciated. And so,
I don't think I did the seminar properly, because I was trying to discourage people.
You must have needed the red film to look at the clues, visit clues.
Things were missing.
but, you know, and so, you know, I learned from him. I turned around, and when it became CoCoFEST time, and, you know, the community, you know, the money left, hey, I stepped in. I did seminars. I did this. I shared the knowledge that I could share. You know.
Cool.
And I still do. And so I didn't think I did that much to win the award this year, but I did. So that was a surprise. But you know, it's the point. You know, we do this. It's just what we do. You know, we help somebody. Yeah, I've been around. I know quite a bit on certain things. You know.
And seriously, if you get a chance, give John a hug. He's got this nice smell of vanilla and cinnamon. It's awesome.
Next year there'll be a trophy for best hugger.
Best perfume.
There's a lot of guys that aren't here, like Simon and Paul Martin and Sackmaster.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
But maybe we can get those guys to show up sometime. That'd be nice.
Be able to brain trust them.
Let's probably need a press gang, but you know, we could probably put one together.
I don't know about getting some people. I've tried many times to get Marty Goodman to show up.
Oh, yeah.
The Atlanta CoCo show, the Rainbow Fest, and
well, just tell him the party chairman said he had to show up.
I get him like 90%. He's about to book the flight, and you know, it's not a financial thing. It's just what works for him. So you know, some of these people, it's a little hard to get them out to the show. You try and do your best, and then when they don't come, you don't get upset.
And some of the ones internationally, I mean, it's a financial issue.
Yeah, that's tough.
I think Sockmaster, I think it's something we probably could. He's showed back the interest in the community and doing things. And
now that he's taken down that fiend Billy Mitchell.
Yeah.
I ran into Billy Mitchell about a month ago.
Oh, yeah.
He's walking through this show, which is for pinball and video games. There's like, between the two, there's like 1,500 machines there.
Yeah.
And he's walking through the crowd, and there's a couple of people standing talking, and they didn't know he was coming by or anything. And he gets up to him and goes, "Moo! Don't you know who I am?"
Wow.
I'm going, I better not get a big head like that.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, well.
He's no David Ladd.
Yeah, there you go. Well, so, to be a good CoCo person, you don't have to come to CoCoFEST, but you ought to.
You should. You should at least make it to one if you
have
can.
a moral imperative.
That's right.
It's a pilgrimage.
That's right.
It is.
Once a year, whatever.
That's right.
Maybe just once in your life, even. I guess that'll do. But
What if we have the 28th Marty Goodman?
The Marty Goodman 28th annual. I
Do
don't know.
not get your hopes. I've gotten my hopes up too many times. I even made a game about Marty Goodman. He wouldn't show up.
Is that a challenge?
All right.
If I make a game, will you not show up?
I will say this about in that game. Marty Goodman did record some samples for me, and I got real tired by the end hearing, "Oh, really?" His catchphrase.
Live trolling by Mr. Jim Brain.
You have arrived. You have been trolled by the master.
Awesome.
You have arrived.
Well, so looking at the clock on the back wall, I think we're probably running a little bit short. We'll probably have time for maybe another round. If there is a question or anything that needs to be answered, or if any of my co-hosts have something they'd like to offer.
I want to just thank you.
Yes.
For all of
Thank
you.
you.
36 episodes, 3 years of community.
And to be honest, our show wouldn't be here if it was you guys.
Nobody would be here.
Well, it might be true. Well, so I appreciate it. I hope everyone enjoys the show. I mean, that's why we do it is for everyone else to have some enjoyment, to kind of build the camaraderie and that sort of thing. So it's good to hear when people like the show and, keeps us going in some degree. And to see Neil smile, it's just,
It's radiating. It's beautiful.
Anyway,
Just to wrap it up, each of the panelists, what's the coolest thing you saw at this CoCoFEST?
well, David Ladd.
David Ladd. Ron
me,
Delvo.
For me, it's the amount of people.
Yeah.
I really like this.
Me, I'd say that.
Exciting.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
The fact that the heron is still in place and hasn't been worn down to nothing.
That's because we've been buffing David Ladd's head.
Brendan?
So, are you guys doing Patreon or anything like that? Is there any way to contribute?
We don't need the money.
Yeah, we actually, if you listen, we're sponsored by Cyber Ears. We don't have any hosting fees. There's a DNS registration fee for CoCoCrew.org. It's not really a big deal. So we don't really have any expenses. And so
It's just mostly our time.
it's just kind of our time, and we use it to hang out a little bit. So there's no really a point for us to have a Patreon. Besides it, you kind of, there's sort of an expectation you have a little value add for your Patreon, whatever. And
You're right. That's not.
I don't know what we would offer. So there are those pictures I took of Boisy last night. Those are supposed to be private. So,
says we help out Timmy.
yeah.
With Backpage going down,
Yeah, we got to
no
do
back
something.
page on, yeah. No, seriously, for us, I don't feel like it's worth the effort for us, but it might come a time when it shows like that. But
Speaking of that, you want to bring up the fact that we're open to doing ads for others?
Yeah, we started doing ads for real products this
Yeah.
month, and that basically came about because people asked.
That's right.
It's not something we just did. Said, hey, can you make one of these?
Might
sure.
take money for that.
I'll say the same thing I told John. You've got to have some way of distinguishing those real
Yeah.
ads
From the spoof
mock
commercials, yes.
That's usually a website. That's a dead giveaway.
That's kind of the fun, though. That's kind of the half the fun, not knowing, right? Yeah.
Well, hopefully there's no one on the other end of the line when you dial up the phone numbers in the spoofs. At least.
All the phone numbers.
The key to that is, I think, the 555s or something like that.
Yeah.
666.
Purposely, there's no number there.
So, yeah, it's a new issue to come up. So,
Yeah.
Or if it sounds awfully familiar from Rainbow, it's probably not really either.
Right,
But,
yeah.
but,
Don't call false software in your subscription.
you can try.
Well, anyway, on that note, I think we'll probably just draw this to a close. Appreciate you guys coming.
Thanks for coming to CoCoFEST.
Thanks for coming to CoCoFEST. Thank you for being one of our mini downloaders each month. We love it. Love
Yep.
seeing those numbers.
Thank you.
Thanks for
you.
making the show.
All right.
So it's a wrap.
And we beat this one to death.
That's
The horse is
what I
dead.
thought he was going to say.
I think so.
It's not a CoCo Crew podcast. It's a